past is history, the future mystery. This moment is the gift. Every second.
Sarah Larsen live with you in studio. Oh, welcome, Miracle Makers. We are having such a miraculous day. And baby Greg Larsen, thank you for coming on this amazing date with me weekly in studio.
I'd prefer manly Greg Larsen instead of baby Greg Larsen, but
Okay, we'll take manly Greg Larsen.
Why, yes, Dr.
Yes,
Sarah. Yes.
he wakes up at 6 o'clock in the morning and does a workout, and his every muscle is sore.
It is,
these days as he's learning to expand what can happen.
Well, I'm moving from manly to very sexy Greg Larsen very shortly. Yes, as soon as I build my six-pack, I'll be there.
Yes. Miracle Makers, you are with us in studio. We love making available intuitive guidance, great leaders in our community and Miracle Makers, and those that we know are extraordinary. For you, we pick up the phone and reach out to the best we feel the world has to offer to bring you insights, to bring you guidance, to help you reprogram your ability to be yourself and to incorporate that miracle seed into everything that you're doing. And so we have all of these shows, all of the past shows on our website, drsarahlarsen.com. Those past shows are for you to go back and revisit, as well as the show that we're doing today. We're so excited about this one.
Just so excited to be a mirror for you Miracle Makers and a broadcast of miracles and love and possibilities. Truly, there's just so many messages out there that don't reflect humanity's true potential. It kind of saddens my heart a little bit because there should be just like 24/7 broadcasting of like, wow, human beings are amazing and you are amazing and you have seeds of the miraculous within you that can be unlocked, and we're going to like just shower you positive messages until it bursts forth and sprouts within you. And sadly, that doesn't happen. So I just so grateful that we get the chance to be Miracle Makers and to be that mirror and to be that broadcast of possibilities and miracles for you.
And I love that we get to recreate standing on the shoulders of giants that came before us. We're in Sunset Gower Studios. This is the oldest studio in Hollywood. And I feel and I know that our voice being transmitted from here, our image from here out to you, is because of the great leaders that came before us and saw technology and saw creation of entertainment and education and ways, you know, these dreamscapes that made movies and television back then. We are the future that we wanted to see. We're creating that into existence. And our guest with us today, he is such a bright light in the world. He is an award-winning self-help author, a filmmaker himself. So it couldn't be more appropriate that he's in the Sunset Gower UBN studios with us. An actor, a published children's author, a consultant, a poet, a 4-time Ironman triathlon finisher, cross-country bicyclist, and a TED Talk, a speaker from the TED Talk stage. Please welcome Brian Benson.
Yay, Brian!
Thank you, Greg and Dr. Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here. Who are you talking about? It's not me.
Isn't it amazing how when we look at the scope of our lives and we really highlight all the little miracles, all the little steps, all the little yeses that we've said along the way, each one of those is true. Each one of those expanded you. And each one of those, when you stand in that, allows all the 5-year-olds, the 15-year-olds, the 50, 90-year-olds, all of them to believe anything's possible. You can be whatever you are right now and all of these other things. And so welcome, Brian. We're
Thank you.
so glad that you're here and with us. And we've had such a delight. I wish you could have heard all of
I
our
know.
conversations in studio before going live. We're going to give you the juiciest part. So awesome. What is it? Because everyone sees us now, and it's like, oh, we're in studio. We've done all of these extraordinary things. But for myself, there was a time that believing in myself was a struggle, that having a voice and speaking out and saying something to anyone around me that would challenge their authority was difficult for me, or not necessarily challenge but say that my opinion was as valuable as their opinion. How do you remember a time that you were in the past before that you really had to believe in you?
I still do. You know, gosh, it's been an ongoing journey for me. You know, it's interesting because I have had, some successes along the way, but it's interesting looking back. I mean, some of those, it felt like it was almost happening to somebody else because I had this certain version or vision or story of myself maybe that wasn't matching kind of what I was doing. And so as I've been creating and growing and kind of forging a new path, I've been working on myself the whole time. And in some ways, because I've been working on my own personal growth and stepping into those uncomfortable places that I know I need to clean up, these things are happening. So it's ongoing, it's ongoing.
The believing in yourself is ongoing. And I would say that's my own story as well. And my husband gets to witness this all the time, which is, wow, the inner dialogue that I'm able to share with him and help just process is beautiful. And each one of us has an inner voice and this brilliant outer voice as well that comes through. I know in our course of conversation today, I just want our miracle makers to know that we're going to cover be yourself to free yourself, finding your personal freedom, which was the topic of your TED Talk. Then we're probably going to cover some of the moments that we would consider the dark nights of our soul and how to manage that. And then we're also going to be how to be strong in the face of rejection, disapproval, and fear. Those are 3 big, mighty tasks, each in themselves. But we've got a really accomplished, to me, you are very accomplished. Thank you, Brian. And transparent person that isn't scripted or preformed, coming from the gut, sharing wisdom. And so let's start with, how to be strong in the face of rejection. Men and women face this all the time.
Yeah.
And dear miracle makers, for us to grow, we have to become more of our authentic self by sharing ourselves. And when we begin to share ourselves, that inevitable rejection or disapproval or fear comes in. And so, Brian, I'd love for you to share how to be strong in the face of rejection, disapproval, and fear.
I think.
Or how do you do it?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of parts to that. And I've had to go through different forms of rejection through the years, whether it was in high school, getting bullied on the JV baseball team as a sophomore, to fast forward now, going to tons of auditions and, laying it out there and not hearing anything back or, what have you. So, I think it's just, I'm lucky that I feel like I know that I'm headed in the right direction, and that these steps that I'm taking, these times that I'm setting myself up to be rejected are strengthening me and actually kind of polishing my own personal diamond. And so keep that in mind. If people ask me one thing to say, I just tell everybody that they are enough. Just the way they are and what they have to work with, you are enough. And so I try to just remember that, but just keep moving, even if it's a small step. Just keep moving, even if you're getting rejected, or feel like you're getting rejected, or letting the stories that you're carrying along strengthen that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's so beautiful. What you're sharing there is the pressure that's placed from the outside world helps you sharpen how you show up. Moment by moment, that inner talking to yourself and saying, this process, there's multiple possibilities. And the way that I approach this, if I come from the space of who I am.
Yeah.
So expand on that just a little bit.
Well, I just try to just stay firm and strong with my own visions and intentions of where I'm headed. And so that helps me weather those storms of being rejected. And I also try to remember, this is really important, just because you're getting rejected doesn't mean anything. I mean, the person that's rejecting you might be, there's a million reasons why they rejected you, I mean, they're having a bad day. You remind them of somebody that they don't like. You don't have quite the right look for, what I'm auditioning for. I mean, it's innumerable.
Yeah, innumerable.
And so those aren't factual reasons to, you know what I'm saying? I try.
Absolutely. This is so beautiful. And we'll come back to that in just a second. Maybe I'd love for you to share from the power of now and from the Eckhart Tolle from presence, because I know that was a big, you were married, the marriage dissolved. There was this sense of disapproval, fear, the next moments coming through. So what was coming up for you, and how is that something that you worked through?
Well, there was a lot of pain, so there was a lot of healing. And also, what I wanted to share was that, it's this journey is this journey of life, of a human life, is such a gift, is such a miracle in itself, to be born on the planet Earth in the Milky Way galaxy and all of the universes. I mean, that's just such a miracle. And when you're not in that flow, you know right away, because you feel stagnant. And it's so easy to be stuck in a stagnant place because there's TV, there's ice cream, there's pornography, the news, just endless. But inside, I am stagnant. Yeah. And that's why so many people reach out to you, or any counselor or coaches, because they feel that and they want to get beyond it. So even though it might be scary to go on audition or scary to put yourself out there, that's where the juice is. That's where life is. That's where the miraculous is. So it's so critical to be in the flow, even if it's scary, because that's when you feel the most alive. And if you feel stagnant, then you're not in that space, then do something about it right now. Take some steps today to begin moving out of that place of being stagnant and get back into the miraculous experience of life.
I used to reject myself. Thank you. That was such a beautiful share. I used to struggle so hard. If you know anyone with an eating disorder, you kind of get the level of thinking that they have around themselves, the unworthiness, which you shared earlier, Brian, how really telling yourself you are worthy, you're on this journey. And the thoughts that I would have would say, do it anyway. The inner dialogue would be, it's other people's opinion of me is none of my business, and my own opinion of me is none of my business. And so in the face of, Greg, what you're sharing, when you get, if you're looking at an end result, Brian, you're sharing this as well. If you're looking at the end result, rejected or not rejected, then you're not in the flow. And when you're in the flow, when you're listening for your heart and expanding that and saying to yourself, your inner dialogue, like you mentioned, the diamond, being in this space of, you can only become the diamond with pressure on yourself. The pressure is the inner voice saying, say that thing that you want to say to that woman. Say that thing that you want to say to your boss, or for that raise, or for the line and getting the actors to get this role. Yeah. When you have the opportunity, when it's right there, and there's two voices inside your heart. Mine in the past used to reject myself even before I tried anything. So if you can go make yourself go breathe on the person that you might want to talk to as the first step, or expand into it, just like taking baby steps in that direction, you'll get more and more polished and become the diamond in that experience, in that particular path.
Yes, I totally agree. And I think the key is to rewire the dialogue inside our heads to know that we are enough no matter what happens. And then, and not base our self-esteem and our vision of ourselves in the world upon a job, or whether we get a job, an acting job or not, or you know what I mean? Because that's where the real stress and pain comes from, because some people hang on to something so tightly that they got to have, and they just totally lose themselves.
And that's just,
that's the worst place to be, but if you can go in with just a true love for yourself, then it doesn't really matter what happens. Everything's okay, and everything's just icing on the cake.
It's so hard for men and for women because we have different inner dialogues. Most men's inner dialogue chews themselves up more harshly than any of the language. The way that you hear them yelling at traffic is the way that they yell at themselves.
Yeah, it's just manifesting itself.
It's the outside voice yelling at computers or yelling at whatever is coming through. That's how their inner dialogue is with themselves. And if you recognize that most people talk to themselves in a much harsher voice than they would ever talk to a neighbor, to anyone else, and it's incredible. We say this to ourselves over and over again. And women have a tendency to not value themselves as much. The comparison, we stack everything together. Everything for men, it's compartmentalized. For women, everything is connected. So back when I had my eating disorder, if the scale was in the one direction too much, or if my eyebrows or whatever I thought on the external wasn't quote unquote perfect, I couldn't show up. I would be debilitated on the inside, and it was all connected to everything start to finish, from the beginning of the day back to whenever. And so for women, it's important to bring yourself fully into the moment and to give to yourself the ability to say, no one knows what you were talking about in the past. No one knows where you were, where you came from. How you're showing up in the moment is all that truly matters.
Because they're not thinking that at all. Only
right.
we are. Yeah. They don't even know. I mean, it's just... truth, right? I mean,
Brilliant. Yes, truly. And so, and for men, what would you say? Because I can clearly speak from a woman.
well, I think it's similar.
Yeah, very similar. Yeah.
Very similar. And for men, respect and appreciation for yourself. To really, truly respect yourself and the words that you're sharing, making it comfortable. Men often knock themselves down or knock each other down instead of building each other up. And so I would say that's one of the ways to really clear that energy of fear, disapproval, and rejection. And as we're moving through, I'd love to bring in your TED Talk because that is
TEDx officially.
TEDx official
I don't want the TED
talk.
people to get mad at me. It was a TEDx event, yeah.
TEDx event. Tell us about that and what you shared about there.
Yeah, thank you. It was really an awesome experience. It was a little scary but very surreal and empowering. It was last year in Pasadena, and my talk was titled "Be Yourself to Free Yourself, Finding Your Personal Freedom." And basically, I shared the journey that I've been on the last 7 years since I left my family's business up in Oregon. You know, I was feeling stagnant, like you were talking earlier, and felt like I was done growing, and I did not have any idea what I was going to do with my life. But I just needed to take that step, and so I had a chat with my dad, and he was understanding. And it took a year actually to leave, though, because we decided to sell it, and we had to list it and find a buyer and go through that whole process. But that last year was a blessing in disguise because, I'm always trying to be the best version of myself, and I found myself being really out of balance then. And so I just sat my butt down one day and just wrote out 5 things to keep myself in balance, and it helped me.
Wow.
My intuition kind of then said, you know what, why don't you expand the list and write a book? Now, I'd never written a book before, but that's what I did. So I wrote it out in about a month, and I self-published it, and that was what kind of pointed me in this whole new direction that I'm on now. And so I talk about my journey of the last 7 years and all the kind of synchronicitous events, if that's a word, that transpired that kind of placed me here in LA. And I had 5 points that I learned and utilized that I kind of wove the story through.
Awesome. And so those, it's so fun. We only have this life, meaning our form to fully express ourselves. And so many of us say, oh, I'll be myself when I have the love of my life, or I've got a job or a title or a position, or when I have a certain amount in the bank account, and Brian, you talk about these
Life
different...
goes quick.
Life goes quick. And you talk about these 5 points in that talk.
Yeah.
What is that first point? To be yourself.
Listen to your intuition and be open to whatever comes your way.
And so that's so beautiful. Baby, how do you expand on that for miracle makers and for being in the moment?
Well, you have to find a place in your life where you can actually slow down enough to do that. And so whether that's being in nature or jogging or exercise, whatever that is, you need to be in a place where you can slow down. And I'm just, speaking as someone who lives in Los Angeles, and we have 2 kids, and it's like there's like so many opportunities to be distracted and busy that I find it very challenging to slow down enough to... It's almost like we have little puppies right now. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to sit with the puppies because I can what are you doing? I'm just petting the puppies. But I'm actually like, I just need to slow down and find some space because it truly, and I feel like I've developed my intuition over the years, or my connection to it. So I hear it more clearly than I did when I was younger. But it's still just such a busy experience that even my dad, who lives in the country in Minnesota and is retired, he's like, I'm busier than ever. It's like we're all just busier than ever. And so how do you make space in your life to find that place where you can hear your intuition guiding you? Because I guarantee there's a voice there saying you're stagnant, or move in this direction, or pick up the phone and call that person, or whatever that is that you need to do.
What's incredible to me, thank you, that's so beautiful. We have a mind's voice. We have a heart's voice. We have an intuitive voice, a small, still space within us. We have within us the inner child voice. We have the thoughts of the one, Carl Jung's the one collective mind as well. And every great thing that's been brought about, from Einstein to the classical music to even brilliant authors, J.K. Rowling, saying it was this intuitive voice. It came in its fullness. And that fullness comes from what you're sharing, from the slowing down. And Brian, I believe in your talk, you talk about building the muscle to be able to hear that intuitive voice. And in your book, being connected to that.
Yeah, like you said, there are so many voices, and somebody out there might be going, well, how do you know which one to listen to? Well, I think the ones that are important to listen to are the ones that feel right. You know what I mean? The other ones might be there's unsureness or behind it or fear, but the ones that, are just meant to be followed are the ones that just like fill you up. It's like, right?
It's so great. This is something that I teach in my classes on how to listen, and your body can be the tuning fork.
Yeah, your body's a tuning fork.
Your body's a tuning fork. And so you hold the thought in your body, and if your breath contracts with holding that thought, you can't breathe as deeply. That's a no. If you hold a thought and your breath expands, your lungs and your body expands with that thought, that's a yes. A lot of ancient wisdom teachers have divination tools or pendulums or ways, but your body's the best guide for your body will not lie to you.
I just feel it and I know it, and I almost immediately have to get up and write it down because I know I do not want to lose it.
Yes. And it's your intuition loves you paying attention to it, and it gets more and more connected the more you hear it. And so it's like taking baby steps. The first time you hear it, it's wow, you expand, there's a stillness. The more you hear it, the more it guides and informs and brings synergistic experiences into your life.
Yeah.
And so that's so beautiful.
I don't know if I answered your question, though.
Okay. I think you did, but I'd love for you to expand on it some more.
Could you repeat it again? Because how do I strengthen it?
How do you strengthen it?
Well, being in nature is huge for me. I try to hike 3 or 4 times a week. It just it gives me some exercise. I get ideas, but it just grounds me because I'm pretty driven, and I kind of always have this little low level of anxiety that's running through me as I'm trying to put together these things I want to create. And, I've surrendered to it for the most part, but there's times when it speaks a little louder and it gets me tired because I'm trying to really just grinding. Sometimes, there's points where things are a little slower as they come together. But when I go hike and exercise, it just almost like tire it out, and I can just breathe and remember that everything's going to be all right because I might have lost that feeling for an hour or a day or whatever because I got in my head.
Your body, and especially being a triathlon and nature, are such out on Earth. There's this formula grounding the frequency, the vibrational
it's perfect.
Of the
it's a
Earth.
Perfect frequency.
And it's so beautiful. And we're, in Los Angeles, there's so much noise. You anywhere you travel, and even in hallways and busy offices, office buildings, buses, cars, even cars tattooed, advertisements tattooed on people's bodies today. It's so loud and so busy that our visual field is flooded with all of this information from the outside, the noise and all around. And so nature is a great way. Baby, how do you tune in for yourself?
Meditation is very important.
Yeah.
And although I don't have time for very long meditations, I do take, time during the day for many mini meditations, just to take a few deep breaths.
Right now, he's doing it with our puppies.
Yeah.
Which is we have 4
Puppy
puppies.
meditation.
The
It's very
puppy
profound.
meditation.
Yeah.
We have a puppy for you if you really want to meditate with a puppy. We have 4, so yeah.
Yes.
Anyways, little pitch there for our puppy problem, but or a puppy a blessing that needs
Puppy
to
blessing.
be blessed to other people. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway.
Very present doggies. Loved.
And what I've learned recently is that to do that with your hand over your heart.
Yes.
And it does make a difference to put your hand over your heart. Even just take a few deep breaths. You can even do it when you're talking to someone, and it'll connect to your heart and ground your conversation in a different energy.
It's so beautiful. There's a flood that your body partners with you in. And when you place your hand on your heart, the oxytocin, the relaxation, the connection muscles come in. For myself, when I start feeling irritated, when I really feel irritated by something, that to me is a signal to go fill myself up. And I sat down and I wrote out a bliss list. I do meditate. I do massive amounts of things on a regular basis. But if my inner voice is irritated with another person or with an experience, I self-regulate and I go find a way. Music is great for me. Imagining my children and the bliss that brings, connecting with the sun or connecting with the moon at night clears my mind, or the feeling where the North Star might be is a way when I'm irritated, that becomes a way that I become back tuned, auto-tuned into myself. So that's my gauge. If you were driving a car and the car showed an empty, we wouldn't get out and kick the car and say, why aren't you going somewhere? When I become irritated with myself or with another, I go get my own.
It's time to refill.
It's time to refill. And so those are great indicators for me. And sometimes it's daily that filling up happens. And sometimes it's it can go longer periods of time.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I sometimes I'll just know, somebody will start irritating me at the coffee shop I'm working at. It's like, all right, Brian, it's time, because it's, I've been there, whatever. And so much, I like to watch TV occasionally, just, get lost in a Netflix show or something. That really helps me just unwind and get out of my head. Because I'm always thinking about what to do to create more, to, you know what I'm saying? So.
To be more in service or to
More in
provide
service,
more.
yeah.
Well, exactly.
Awesome. We are so rapidly moving through time. I want to go to number 2.
Yeah.
Number 2 on how to free yourself.
Step out of your comfort zone.
So I look for ways to step out of my comfort zone on a daily basis. My personal motto is, because I used to be such a scaredy cat. I was scared to talk to people. The first time I had a conversation with a boy that, or a man or anyone of the opposite sex, not female, words wouldn't come out of my mouth. And it wasn't because of attraction. It was kind of where I grew up. It was a sin to talk to the opposite sex. You could be such an extreme way to be programmed that I have relatives that have never been in a room with someone they're not related to. I have relatives that have never been in a room with the opposite sex. If you really imagine how tiny the world is, and here I went from that experience, guarded, protected, princessed. I had clothes made for me before I was born, but as the eldest granddaughter born in Pakistan, an extreme experience coming to the U.S. And then all of a sudden I'm with all of these strange looking people, beautiful and kind, but I have no words coming out. And at some point, I had to use my imagination. I had to put someone else's, like a female head, on a teacher's body to be able to relate to them and to actually speak and answer questions without being in fear. And it's a very interesting thing to say. So I struggled with that, but I used my imagination to help me be comfortable in certain situations. And that comfort in those situations allowed me to get used to being uncomfortable. So I got comfortable being uncomfortable, and I look for ways to expand myself every day. And I'd love for you guys to expand on how you expand your comfort zone to be uncomfortable.
Well, luckily I'm a Viking, so. But which leads me to think of all the times I've traveled. I've traveled all over the world. In college, I studied overseas, so I think I've had an easier time at, thinking that, wow, I'm going to move to LA, and the mind right away goes, where are you going to live? How are you going to, where are you going to get all that stuff like that? But it just, none of that stuff was it didn't paralyze me. So in my life, I was blessed with this capacity to step into that which is uncomfortable in so many times, in so many places in my life, which has given me such a rich experience that I'm so grateful for. And so for those who struggle with that, it's just I think it always comes to being able to go deeper within, whether it's doing personal growth work or reading books on knowing who you are, or figuring out that, because that's where it comes from. It comes from that inner voice that overrides the, oh my God, what's going to happen next? Or what's going to, there's got to be an inner voice that overrides that noisy voice in the mind that's trying to protect you. And as soon as you can tap into that voice, then it's much easier to step into that where you're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, amen. And I guess one of the things I'm most proud of is that I have not been afraid to step out of my comfort zone in a lot of ways. One of the first things I did when I left the family business after the book came out, I just intuitively felt like I would need to learn how to be comfortable in front of people, and that terrified me, to speak in front of folks. So I ended up moving to Reno, Nevada to be near my son, who lived in the Lake Tahoe area while he was in high school. So I kind of connected with him for those 4 years, which was wonderful, and then kind of started to reinvent myself. But so as far as stepping out of my comfort zone, I forced myself to do community college speech classes and Toastmasters, and I co-hosted my own internet radio show with an experienced person, and I created an interactive workshop. And so I just did one thing after another, and I even signed up for an acting class there, and I had no intention of acting because I thought that would be another tool to help me. And I kind of enjoyed it, and I had a dream come to me very shortly thereafter. I wrote it down. I met a young filmmaker and said, hey, I don't know how to make a movie, but I kind of think this would be cool. And he said, let's do it. So 2 weeks later, we made Guitar Man, which was empowering for me. I'd never played guitar in front of anybody before, and here I am doing it and acting at the same time. And it did really well at film festivals. And so that's where I kind of got so one thing led to another. That's where it was just, you just got to keep stepping out. And I found it was scary at times for sure. But it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be, and the rewards I got made it well worth the effort.
Brilliant. And we are running quickly through time, right. So I want to go to number three.
Stay in life balance.
Stay in life balance. Yeah. And so I'd love for you to start this one, love. What's stay in life balance?
For me, that's a lot of kisses from Sarah. Copious amounts of ice.
Me too.
That's a secret to balance right there. Being connected. No.
Yeah.
It's very challenging because we have kids who are so busy right now with all their activities, and I so want to give to them and make their life as rich as possible. And there's all the stuff we do with our business, and there's just so much going on that it's a constant tuning into how is God calling me to serve? How can I give the most with my life during this time here? And whenever I check in, it feels right. So I just keep going with it. And even though it's busy, I don't feel like it's out of bounds because I'm doing my life's purpose, my life's calling. And maybe that's what softens all the busyness a little bit, because it's all fulfilling my higher calling, my higher purpose.
Awesome.
Yeah, you can't top that. I mean, just when what you're doing is fulfilling, you're right on track. No matter what it is, being the best parent you can be, being the best teacher, salesman, whatever.
Yeah.
So I love what you gentlemen are saying. It's so beautiful, and it's so great to be in this space with men that are available to talk about their experiences and be themselves, which is really, really beautiful. I love that you brought the acting in. when you began acting, I believe that repertoire of feelings and a repertoire, maybe that's not the right word, maybe I need a different word, but having access to all of these different spaces and nuances of feeling what might be alive in you brings in the balance.
Yeah.
So when you have that, being the best that you can be in any given moment that you can be in that moment, meaning you're not rejecting yourself, you're paying attention to your intuition, and then you're stretching your comfort zone, and you know, this is the best I can show up in this moment. You're balanced with that, and you're as a voice in your head or as a seer of someone observing yourself, you're acting into greater and greater versions of yourself, and it brings in the balance. So if, for me, when I wasn't as aware as I am today, and I'm so grateful that I'm waking up more and becoming more aware and more capable of being who I am, I used numbers. I used a watch and a clock. And every time I saw different colors would bring me to the moment. If I saw the color red, it was like, be here now. And then I used numbers to help guide me. The number 1 meant I'm one with all things. 2, look for 2 sides to every story at least. 3 was the trilogy. 4, communication. Who do I need to communicate with? Do I need to be communicating with myself? 5, change, love. 6 was always balance.
That's a great way to remind yourself to stay present and focus on the truths.
The truths. And you have these 5 things that help. That was your mantra. I used numbers until bigger tools came around. 7 was synergy. 8 was infinite. 9 was completion. 0 is part of everything, no beginning, no end as well. And there's a whole lot that we could say about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Number 4?
Number 4.
Have fun and enjoy the ride.
Have fun and enjoy the ride. This is, I think, hard in our society because if we found research-wise, if you're looking in a magazine, if you're looking at Cosmopolitan magazine or some of the advertisement-filled magazines, they're designed to make you feel not good about yourself.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff we see on television, the acne creams and the whatever
Diet pills.
The diet pills, whatever is being sold is designed to say you need something outside of yourself to be okay or feel okay. And so this one's particularly... Or to be desired. This one's particularly important. So...
Yeah. For me, it just basically, I got so serious, as I was telling Greg earlier, when I wrote the first 2 kind of my books that were kind of, self-improvement type books. I mean, they're for me first and foremost, but I started to put pressure on myself to be perfect and almost pious because I felt like here I am writing self-help.
Yeah.
And I lost the fun part of me and the real part of me. And so it was gone for a few years as I got really focused on heading in the path I was supposed to be heading in. And so now I'm just recapturing that. And what's the point of doing anything unless you're having fun, right? And so, yeah. That was an important one for me.
I think that's a big one for everyone. You open up to so many possibilities. If you can make light of any situation, the darkest situations, if you can bring any dark room cannot stay dark with the smallest amount of light. And so if nothing else, if you can bring within yourself to light up something, even if it's grim in that moment, to bring in some release of tension, something there.
Just raise the vibration a little bit, the energy, and it just, right? I mean, it just kind of attracts and draws in more and builds.
And builds. And baby, anything you want to add to that?
Just hang out with Dr. Sarah for a little bit. You'll have a lot of fun. This girl has brought so much fun into my life from day one when we first started dating back in Nashville. It was like, that's all it was several weeks in a row of every night going out and having fun. And it was very adventurous fun. So life definitely got much better from the very first moment I said yes to hanging out with you. So just spend some time with Dr. Sarah.
Which, thank you so much. I think it's so awesome. I would say the same about all the gentlemen in this room because spend time with those that bring you joy.
Yeah.
Spend time with those that expand the conversation and spend time with those that really, really elevate what's possible for yourself, for every room that you're in. And Brian, what would you add to that?
Spend time with people that bring out the best in you.
Yes.
And make you want to be your best and improve and work on yourself. You know what I mean? Right? You know, I don't know. I can't add anything to that.
I love how you moved. There was an intuition that said, hey, this isn't working. If I follow this path, doesn't result in fun. You got up, but even though it took a little while to design it in a way,
yes.
Today you showed up without even knowing what the topic would be and said yes, whereas 7 years ago, what would that have been like for you?
Well, I would have been still dealing with my own insecurities probably and worthiness issues and a little nervous and just kind of feeling like just showing up was an accomplishment, you know, instead of really just kind of being more my true authentic self and just trusting that I was going to receive what I needed to say when I needed to say it.
Yes, that's so beautiful.
Instead maybe have a little more scripted back then.
Yes. So enjoy the ride truly means when you're looking at yourself, look at yourself through the lens of where you've been and how far you've come on that journey. Yeah. So, so brilliant. Nice. So we are going into number 5.
There are no rules. Expect the unexpected.
Ooh. The rules are made up, which we are so grateful for that, as well as you're fully responsible for everything that happens in your environment. When you fully get that you're fully responsible, the rules are up for adjustment.
The times I get into trouble are when I try to follow, quote, the rules or the way that somebody else is doing something or, you know, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so I'm beyond that now, thank God. And like I was telling you earlier, I just happily expect the unexpected, whether it's an email from you to be on your show or any other kind of opportunity or connection. So I've gotten to the point where I just bring them on. I'm expecting them.
Yes, that's so beautiful. Yeah. Expect the unexpected. Enjoy the ride. Balance yourself, really, truly, moment to moment, breath by breath. Asking yourself, are you breathing enough? Are you bringing enough of the goodness in? Yeah. Trusting your intuition. And baby, what would you add?
I was just thinking immediately that, I'm kind of a rules person. So Sarah comes up with these ideas. I'm like, well, you know what the rules are, how it's been done before. And she's like, she just like gives her a little twinkle in the eye and like makes some magic happen and tries something. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're breaking the rules. Don't you know you're breaking the rules? But of course, it always like flows in this amazing direction and new things happen and amazing people come into our lives. So it's just like,
which is
just
really
play
to
by
say,
Sarah's rules.
which is so beautiful to say that we're still growing in our ability to receive fully all that's possible because we get how fully responsible we are for every moment. And one of the things that is brilliant in reflection with conversations with other people is you can really see where you are when you have a deep listening moment to moment. A long time ago, Greg couldn't hear that there was a possibility that the rules weren't it, that there was something beyond rules. And his deep listening opened us up to being able to go beyond the rules. And so it's such an expansive world that we get to stand on the shoulders of the rule breakers,
They're the people we really look up to now, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Elon Musk and all those folks that are trying
Richard
to do
Branson.
good things. Richard
Yes.
Branson, good things, but are also being successful and
Yeah.
making a difference for all.
And so it's so
Even that darn Jesus. God darn it. He's such a rule breaker.
Do we have a quick 30 seconds?
we do.
One thing that just popped into my head after we went over these things and listening to you two, and this is something that I'm starting to work on now myself, but be open to connecting with others in a more deep, intimate way. I mean, that's something that I have starved myself of, and it sucks, and that's part of, you guys have it, and that's wonderful, but that's something that is so important. And there's so many different levels of it, but I mean, we can't deny ourselves that.
I think you go into that in your children's book. That's one of the things that you start to explore. Tell us a little bit about the alien.
Yeah. Well, Steve the Alien, I guess, is different than maybe what I was just talking about as far as like not being afraid of love.
Not being afraid of love. Steve the Alien is your upcoming children's book.
Which I'm very happy about.
Which is one of the ways that you explore. And part of that, just tell us a little bit about this brilliant book that you have.
I wrote it like the first half 13 years ago. I got stuck with it. It's a 52-page rhyming fun adventure, and I put it away for 3 years. I finished it in 2007. It sat another 9 years until I kind of got the confidence to put it out there, and so it's all come together nicely, and I'm shooting. November 1st is the release date.
Wow,
and
Steve the Alien is coming
it's
out.
It's coming, yes.
And if you're listening to this podcast or watching this on YouTube, it might already be out. Yes, later.
Right, yes. But stevethealien.com, you can learn more about it. But basically, it's a story of learning how to be acceptant of others as well as the benefits of sharing, and it's just a fun read for adults and kids. I'd like to say.
So Brian, when you were sharing there about the ability to really be with another, to really share with another, the thing that's all uniquely ours is our voice. What we share, what we create is all uniquely ours. And that ability to share with another human being what we're really truly thinking, what we're really truly feeling. And I call intimacy, into me you see. And you have a children's book that helps bring about this alien's abilities. Yes, go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, he arrives out. There's a boy walking to school and just in a rural area, and the alien lands, and it's just kind of like, scares him at first, but then they realize he's safe, and just they just have a nice little exchange, and the alien gets what he needs, and he's on a scavenger hunt, and it's
So beautiful. And you have some upcoming things as well that I'd love for you to share about. So everyone who's heard us and heard this brilliant conversation is able to stay connected with you and all the projects that you're working on.
Sure. Yeah. Just on my website. I'll have actually a new website coming up in a few weeks, but I'm really excited about the future. I've got another book I'm working on that's kind of under wraps right now, but I'm excited about it. A couple of scripts that I think are really exciting. I hope to speak more.
Yes.
I'm going to start doing a children's book a year. I've got about 15 stories that are ready to go that I wrote a long time ago that I think are really strong and fun. And so
awesome.
I'm looking forward to that. And acting.
Acting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us. We enjoyed you so much, and the TED Talk, and there's only one thing we didn't cover, and we only have a couple minutes for it. And I think we're going to cover this on a future show. But the dark night of the soul and that journey that we're on, we've got about a minute, baby, Miracle Maker, to share a couple things around dark night of the soul.
To me, the dark night of the soul, if you truly go into it, leads to a deeper knowing and an experience of love. So face it, delve into it, experience it.
Awesome.
Allow it to work its magic. And on the other side is, what I have found anyways, is a deeper experience of love in you.
Awesome. Yay. Beautiful. Brian, anything you'd share about that?
And I think a deeper acceptance of your own self too, and value of your own self.
Yeah.
And I mean, that love encompasses all of that, obviously.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just facing all that stuff head on. It sucked at times. There'd be days where I didn't want to get out of bed, and I just go through waves. But you just keep moving forward and take time out if you need to take time out. What I think I didn't do was maybe actually really let in those feelings, those tough feelings, and feel them. I would kind of try to mask them at times. So the key is just let them in. If you feel, I mean, just let it suck for a little while if you have to, but you'll come out stronger.
Yeah.
And they won't come back around later.
Yes.
Yeah.
I often think the dark night of the soul comes in order to help us really expand what's possible for us. When we step into, so for some people that dark night of the soul is in prison. For some it's in severe rejection in an area that they thought was the direction of their life, or the loss of a job, or massive loss in their bank account. That comes about to make you connect to the resources within you so that you can truly expand what's possible for all of humanity by facing, experiencing, feeling all of it where you are, as you are in the moment. And so, dear miracle makers, this wraps up this show. We're so grateful to have Brian Benson, Finding Your Voice, your brilliant TEDx talk, and Steve the Alien. Woohoo! Here with Greg Larsen, Miracle Makers, and we will see you next week. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
The past is history, the future mystery. This moment is the gift.